Hello, and welcome to episode 57 of First Frames First.
Hello.
So this week, Jason and I went on a writer's retreat for 2.5 days. And we worked like
Feels
animals.
like 3 days.
It does feel like 3 days. And we worked like animals. And that's what we're going to talk about. Our beautiful sexual script experience.
We started to write our new horror film, The Glade.
Enjoy the show. Who are we?
Nobodies!
Speak for yourself.
Okay. We're Canadian filmmakers with the dream of surviving financially on the backs of our films.
Welcome to our show where we bring people along on our film journey.
Maybe we can learn a thing or two.
Maybe we can teach people a thing or two while drinking beers.
I mean, if you can't drink beers while filmmaking, what's the point?
We are Fable Forest Films, failing our way to success.
Welcome to Jurassic Park. I mean, our show. First Frames First.
This guy's a fucking jerk.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome to First Frames First. My name is Adrian Constant.
My name is Jason Green. What I'm going to do today is try to look at you all as infrequently as possible because I'm driving.
Because he's driving. Now, please be aware that this episode, the audio in this episode is not going to be the best because we are in the car and we're just using the GoPro audio.
Yeah.
So we apologize for that, and hopefully you can,
No need to apologize.
get used to it.
The
and
video
then
last
enjoy.
Video last time was rough because we were inside of a sauna.
With zero light.
So this time the audio can be
A little rough. We're not going to give you two really great things at the same time, because that's not how we roll, So right now we're actually driving back from the town of Maddock in Ontario. We were at just a cottage on the water. It was a very nice little cottage, and we just spent 2.5 days, 3 days, just like writing, coming up with the full story of the script. We had the concept coming in, we fleshed it out on the car ride in, and then when we got there, we carted the whole story out.
Well,
we refined.
Let's slow it down for the audience. We're not doing a 5-minute podcast here.
Yeah, I was just giving an overview. But that's fine.
Fair enough. Adrian, you've been wanting to do a writer's retreat for some time.
Yeah. So, yes.
Talk about this a little bit.
Well, it was just, and I will say that when I first started in the film industry in Vancouver, I had this sort of nutty dream where I actually called it Creative Cabin. I was young. But where you would go away to like a cottage or a cabin on the water, you would build the idea and do all the creative stuff.
Right.
Then you would leave, make the movie, and then sell the movie, go and experience some life, and then come back to this cabin or this cottage, right?
Repeat. Write.
Yes.
Write. Rinse. Repeat.
Yes, exactly. But it had everything in there, because when after you made the movie, and obviously in my delusional dream world, you would make enough money to go and do really exciting things and experience life, and you would bring those experiences back into
The next thing.
the writing.
Sure.
So that has always been sort of in the back of my brain as something that would be a wonderful thing to do. Now, a friend of mine has been talking. She's out of Vancouver, and she's trying to become a writer too. And she spoke about writers' retreats and the value of doing an intensive period of one single thing rather than trying to spread it out over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. And this, to me, sounded very appealing, especially with the two small girls. Rather than writing half an hour every night for 5 months,
Right.
you just go and you kind of crack the whip and
Immerse yourself in it.
You attack it, and you see how far you can get.
Right.
If you can get a version a readable version by the end of that short period.
So for me, a couple of years ago, I think, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but this was, it felt like close to the beginning of something special with Black Fawn Films.
Yeah.
The guys out of Guelph. I think maybe they were a movie in or 2 movies in, and then what I saw was on their social media they were doing a writer's retreat where they went to. I kind of think that I can't remember, but I kind of think that they just did like an all-inclusive resort in like Dominican or something. But they brought their team and they sat in the sun, drank cervezas by the pool or whatever, checked out the beach, and wrote, right? And again, it's not about when you do a writer's retreat, it's not about going out and experiencing all the stuff, but it's about hunkering down into one spot that's comfortable. And I think the spot we had was pretty good because we were able to kind of move around the house a little bit and bounce in and out and stuff like that. But when I saw them doing that, I remember mentioning to you, I was like, this is something that we have to think about for the future. You know, you get away, and so I suppose great minds think alike.
Totally,
is what I'm saying.
Totally. Now, I will say that when I started thinking about just going away for a short amount of time to try and bang out a script over a single period, I did not think about a cottage on the water.
I remember there was a moment where, do you remember when we went and shot that Screed Rig video?
Yeah.
We went down to Ottawa and shot like a corporate video for my uncle, Darren, for a new type of rake that he invented. You know what we should do? We should show people this video. It's pretty amazing.
We should totally push the rake too.
We should. We should actually do a podcast where we talk about the Screed Rake whole experience, because that was pretty funny too, actually. And it was a good time. But the one thing I remember was on the way down or back, one of the times that we went, we rented like a shit motel in Carleton Place, which is about 30 minutes outside of Ottawa. And I remember, we had this shitty hotel, and I remember you being like, yeah, this is the type of shithole that we just go to the edge of the city and get a shitty motel room with a coffee maker.
That's
some
it.
Beers in the fridge.
Yeah, a couple of snacks so you don't go hungry, and then you just hunker in.
Yeah.
Because that is exactly right. Initially, I didn't think of a cottage on the water. I thought of like a motel room. You put yourself in a position where the only thing you have to do is write. You're like, well, I suppose I'll write. Like, especially if you take away the internet.
Yeah.
If you take away the internet, you take away TV somewhat.
So
you're doing one thing.
When we made the decision, what made us decide April? I think it was, we said we would do it after we wrapped shifted.
Mm-hmm. After we wrapped shifted.
And before we had to break into Art of Eight Limbs again?
Yeah.
Or something?
We had a window. We had a window of time, and I think, we just, it seemed far enough out, because we spoke about it in like November.
Right.
And we were like, when are we going to do this? And it was like, let's do it in April.
Right, after shifted probably.
Yeah, after shifted.
Yeah.
So it's not winter anymore. Right beginning of spring.
So originally I remember, I know you were thinking hotel room. I remember mentioning that to my wife, like, Adrian wants to get a hotel room and we're going to go right. And she was like, cool.
What a
She's like, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah.
A bunch of idiots. But, so I started thinking, because I've done Airbnb a couple times with friends. And one of the times we went to Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is like just mountains and trees everywhere, and we are, the Fable forest. So I was thinking, imagine if we could just go on the Airbnb website and hunt around and find a spot. And part of the appeal of going to like Pennsylvania was it's a 5 or 6 hour drive, right? And in my mind, I was like, we can leave in the morning or leave after work, and we can drive for like 5 or 6 hours into the night, and we can be like, writing, and then we'll stay there for a bunch of days, and then we'll have this long drive back where we can, again, continue to do whatever. and that was kind of the approach we took, but we just decided to leave America out of the equation this time.
Yeah, we decided that 3 hours, we would look 3 hours, and if we could, and the border was just like adding time to the trips, because we did get whittled down a little bit. Initially we thought 4 days, but we did get whittled down a little bit due to my wife's work commitments, and so we just had to like we got what we got, and we were machines.
But I think the cool thing too is
we were machines.
Yeah.
Holy, which we're going to get into. So, and I just want to say one thing. I went on a trip to the States with my wife and my girls, and we drove through Pennsylvania. And there is something different about America. As soon as you cross the border, there's hills, there's mountains, there is something in the air that is just, it's tangible. There's a tangible difference. I don't know what it is, but I thought to myself, this is where we want to write a script. We want to be in this place. Like, I don't know what it is. It's kind of like an insecurity. Like there's this X factor. Like something, like right in those hills over there in Pennsylvania could be a person who's going to take you and put you in their basement, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying bad things don't happen in Canada, but it doesn't feel like it gives off that vibe. Whereas I got that vibe straight away as soon as we crossed the border. It's just, it changes. The landscape is different.
Yes.
Canada is flat. Ontario is flat. The moment you cross into the States, the hills start. It's crazy. And so when we were first talking about the States, that's part of the reason I thought the States was so exciting. It's like, if you make something in this creative space where you feel like anything is possible, it might come through the work.
Yeah.
That electricity might come into the...
Well, next time.
Oh, yeah. You can't write everything in the States, but it's just a thought.
I like it. It's cool.
Yeah.
So, we part of the preparation, I suppose, was a little bit of super fun time looking at all the different cottages. At first we were thinking drop the Wi-Fi, but I'm kind of glad we had Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
We actually did not internet very much, to be honest.
No.
But we did watch 3 movies, so we did basically break late at night. Although, like last night, we didn't get to bed until like 3:30 in the morning or something, because that was dumb.
The first night too.
Yeah.
First night too was a 4 a.m. night.
Yeah.
Like, not a lot of sleep.
No.
Like, last night was 5 hours. Slept 5 hours last night.
Yeah, 3:30 to 8.
Oh, that's less. That's 4.5. You were up I was probably up at 8:30, but...
Well, I couldn't let you outdo me today because...
Is that why you were so grumpy when I woke up and walked out? You were like, this is bullshit!
Yesterday morning, I woke up at what time? 9:30 or 10?
Yeah.
I slept in, and Adrian was like, I was about to bang on your door and wake you up. I was like, he's like, what do you think, we're on vacation? I was like, yeah, kinda.
That's what I thought.
Anyways, yeah, I think, night. So we left Kitchener Waterloo Thursday at like 6:30.
Yep.
And yeah, the interesting thing about this, so we're not going to really talk about the story, but it is called The Glade. We did actually, coming into the weekend, we were even up to last week, we were deciding which script to do, because we have 2 that are kind of they're not similar, they're completely different, but they're kind of built around single location. They kind of have equivalent difficulties in different areas and things like that. But we just made the decision to go with this kind of single location horror film that we're calling The Glade.
Yeah, we just. I think it was, the deciding factor was which is the script that we would likely shoot next, or need next, and this just felt like it was. Now, after we've done it, I think they kind of fall into the same level because we just.
This one got a little bit bigger than.
Got a little bit bigger than we originally anticipated,
Yeah.
but I think it needed to.
I think so.
The way that where it landed is, I think, exactly where it should be.
Yeah.
So driving, Jay had this concept, just
Very
a
basic.
very basic concept. Like this happens, and this happens, and this happens. And so with that, we hopped in the car, started driving, 3-hour drive, and we started talking through the movie and what's going to happen. And we didn't start carding in the.
No, we didn't do any cards, but we did. Just so that you guys know, this is just a FY.
Why?
We did GoPro a lot this weekend. Like we GoPro'd the whole drive here. We GoPro'd the whole day of doing the cards. We GoPro'd 2 sets of story time, Fable Forest Films trademark. We GoPro'd almost a whole day. We took a couple breaks, but we GoPro'd almost an entire day of us sitting writing and just bantering and whatever. The writing GoPro videos are boring. Yeah, for sure.
Those are gonna have to be super speed.
Yeah, but it was interesting, right? And we videotaped the whole thing. We kept dumping cards. Do you want a coffee?
I totally do want a coffee.
Okay. Yeah, we kept dumping the cards. So essentially, the idea is we are going to have a lot of behind-the-scenes footage once we finally
put it all together.
And put it on the let's say behind or on the DVD or whatever, some sort of special feature of some kind. Anyway,
so when we say, so basically what we did was we drove and we talked the movie to death. Like we were talking about all sorts of things that needed to happen. You're just talking about the movie, and this should happen, and that should happen. Then once we arrived at the cottage, round about 9, 10.
Yeah, no, 10.
10.
Yeah.
It was a little. We sort of brought everything in, frantic, laid everything out. Did we get into the beer straight away?
Put some beers in the fridge? I think so.
Yeah, we must have, because there's no ways we wouldn't.
No, we were beering pretty soon.
Took a beer, and then we started laying out. When we talk about carding, we're talking about laying out the whole movies on index cards.
And the idea is, you're trying to. You are putting one scene in front of the other, but you're also trying to say, okay, look, we don't need to be formulaic or anything, but a movie generally is going to be between 70 minutes and 90 minutes or 120 minutes or whatever. So what you do is we kind of build 4 long rows, and each row, if the movie was 90 minutes, then each row is 25 minutes, right? Or whatever, because it'd be 25 minutes, 50 minutes, 100 minutes. So that's an hour and 40 minutes. If it was 2 hours long, then each row would essentially take
You're breaking
30
up the
minutes.
movie into quarters.
Right. So that you can kind of think in your mind, like, if I write these scenes and by this point on the line they've done this particular thing, you can kind of say to yourself, okay, that happens at about 10 minutes into the movie. Okay, that feels right.
Yeah.
Based on the movies you watch, based on the things that you do, okay, this is happening by, minute 50, and then it's like action until the end, whatever.
Yeah.
So you can kind of get a sense of like where everything lands.
Yeah, absolutely. And also you get a. Now this is a very common process that
Totally.
people use, but like you also get a visual map of your story or your script, like in one, just by looking at a single area. You can see You know, if you have a card if you in different colors, you put the cards where people die. You know that those are happening at certain points in the movies. You can make sure that there's a bit of spacing in between those, unless you particularly want two people to die bang bang, you know. But it really helps with pacing, and you see where big moments come, and then you can also design where other emotional moments would happen. Because we had sort of horror things that were happening, but we also had emotional beats. That was kind of like our B storyline, which was around the family unit. And so we also wanted to know, like, when is the family unit gonna... Don't forget, the family unit needs to talk a little bit about... Because they're talking about horror stuff the whole time. Like, oh, this is horrific. But I also hate you. And we need to... Because that's also what the story is about. Like, how could you have done that to me? And so those little pieces... They need to come in at different points and be spread out through the movie until your big explosion scene where everybody has a fight and blows up, because you know that that's going to be over here. You know what I mean?
So what I can't quite remember, was it just exhaustion that stopped us Thursday night? Like we were just like...
The fact that it was 3 a.m.?
No, because we watched Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, yeah, I think it was just that it was go, go, go all day. I feel like there are natural breaks in the process of moving forward. You're like, okay, we kind of got to the cards. We're going to have to refine them, but we got to the end of them.
Yeah, we did. We did kind of have the whole movie out.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough. Not even close. Well, I suppose...
No, it might totally be enough.
Yeah.
It's just... So, and we'll explain as we get on about the length of things.
So day 2... Yeah, totally. So day 2, Friday morning.
Yeah. So we just continued carding, spreading things out, making them bigger.
And as we talked, what we would do is at first we would have like broad points on the card, so it would just say this, right? But then as we talked more and more and more, we'd be looking at the card and we'd make little notes on the card about filling in the scenes a little bit more. I remember there was a time when you actually sat down and you took all the cards and you rewrote them a slightly different way. Right?
Just like, because the thing is, on a card, you're like, oh, in this scene, this should totally happen. But if you're gonna read the cards back to each other to run through the story, you kind of need the card to have the correct order of events.
Right.
So I was just like taking the mushy cards and turning them into a more structured card. Yeah. And in fact, I would have loved to have done that again.
Yeah.
Because we ran through it again, and I would love to have taken those cards and just, made them really clean and clear. And this is exactly what are the things that are going to happen in the scene.
Okay, just 1 second. We're just going to order here.
Pause.
Good morning. How may I take the order for you?
Hi, can I get a large coffee, 3 milk, and a large with milk and sugar?
3 milk, then milk and sugar. Anything else?
That's it.
Perfect. Coming up, $4.
Thank you. So,
let's get out of here.
I think it's fine. Just saying.
It's interesting.
We're getting coffee. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to give my PIN number. I'm just going to tap. Boop. Beep boop. Where were we? Oh yeah.
So I mean, the first day we carded as much as we could. We got to a certain point, drank a beer, watched the movie.
Cabin in the Woods. What did you think about Cabin in the Woods? Quickly.
So interesting. Didn't have any idea what I was getting into. I honestly thought it was a traditional Cabin in the Woods horror movie, and I was pleasantly surprised at how slapstick funny it was and how crazy. And
it was like Cabin Fever meets Office Space.
How super meta it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. Great movie. So on Friday, though... Hold on, we're just going to pay for these coffees. Oh, let's use the new... Where's the new one? This card. There we go. There you go. There's my little card. Beep boop. Go. Thank you. Thank you. You too. Alrighty.
Alrighty.
So, back on the street here. So yeah, we carted all through Friday. Pretty much. Oh no, you know what else we did? Friday morning we did toot into town for a sweet ass breakfast. What was the name of the place?
He's really stretching the sweet ass, but it was called Angie and Dana's.
Angie and Dana's, and we got in
Breakfast, and it's
two dudes,
two guys.
and we were like, hey, it was funny. We made kind of error, but we were like, hey, do you guys have breakfast here? And the guy looked at us like, I don't know, and basically was like, hold on, and goes into the back to talk to like the cook, and is like, can we do breakfast? And the guy's like, I can try. And I'm like,
We were like, this is
what?
This is terrible.
And he comes out and he's like, what do you guys think? Like eggs, bacon, toast? We're like,
Okay.
yeah. And he's like, okay, we can do that. I'm like, okay. Well, we're staying here then. So
Yeah.
it was pretty funny. And anyway, so we went into breakfast and whatever, and then came back. But after the day of carding, after we felt pretty good about the order of things.
And it was an all-day thing.
Yeah.
Like we went all day. Carding, expanding, carding, writing, rewriting.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, because what we had decided to do was do story time twice. I remember talking in the afternoon, and we were like, I'll go first. We will fix the cards, and then you'll go, and we'll fix the cards again, and then tomorrow we're going to start writing. That was the idea. But we didn't even get that far. So we did do story time with me. So essentially, at the end of Friday, we had the whole movie plotted out, and what we did was we turned on the audio recorder and the GoPro, and I tried to essentially recite or tell the movie based off of the cards. So you try to do a little bit of action, you try to throw a piece
in some
of dialogue
there.
if you can.
Yeah. You totally try and let the movie happen in your mind.
Yeah. And it was rough when I did
it was pretty bumpy.
Yeah, we found a couple spots,
and you're stopping. You're like, hang on, this doesn't work.
Right.
And now you got to sort this problem out. You're like, well, he can't do this because this is the reality for the characters, and he would never do that.
Right.
Which for me is one of the greatest sins of any kind of film or any kind of story. Is if a character does a thing that the character would never have done.
Right.
If they were actually in that situation.
Right.
It is totally the go down the stairs into the dark basement when that's not what they would do.
Right.
Or like, just like, I can't even think of an example right now. It just makes me mad.
Well, we will talk about movie number 2 in a minute, but so anyways, we did that, and I think that was actually, even though it was bumpy, and even though I was shit at it, I think it was a very important piece, because we did find a couple big holes, and we stopped and we kind of tried to figure out how we would work them, and we did. So that was actually really good. So then we were like, okay, by the time that was done, we shut it down for the night, and we watched The Ritual.
Yes.
What did you think of The Ritual?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The performances were just awesome.
Yeah, very natural.
So natural, and it is a testament to English acting and a way that these people had refined and worked the dialogue in such a way that it didn't feel like they were saying lines. Like it just, like,
yeah.
So often you can tell that somebody is acting, and even when they are acting well, you know that they're acting. These four guys, I just felt like they were the guys.
Yeah.
Like, they were so good. Anyway, I loved the movie, and in The Ritual, there was just one moment where it got on my nerves a little bit, where they're like, let's go down this pathway that wasn't here yesterday.
Yeah.
This is a pathway, let's go. And you see, the thing is, and this is my pet peeve, is because I get it. these guys need to go down the pathway.
Right.
They do. That's how your movie needs to progress. But when you're designing the story, you need to make it so that it's the only viable option. So that when the guy says, no, let's just go back the way we came because we nearly died last night and I actually have puncture wounds in my chest. So we should just fucking get out of the forest the way we came. And the guy's like, no, this random path that has just appeared magically overnight because of a giant creature that ran through the woods that wasn't here yesterday, let's just walk down here into the unknown. And you're like, I get that they have to walk into the unknown, but you got to take the other option away properly.
To be fair to that guy, it was dark and raining when they arrived. Anywho, I love the part where they tell the guy to go up the stairs.
Yeah.
Love seems powerful. I don't know what. Oh, look at that. They make the guy go upstairs and they're like, do you want me to come with you? And he's like, no. He stomps upstairs and freaks out. Anyways.
Yeah.
So we watched the ritual and we did get to sleep, if I recall correctly, a little bit earlier, maybe midnight or 12:30.
Yeah, is this on the Friday?
Yeah, Friday night, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
1, I'm not sure. But
because the first night we got to bed at about 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So night 2, it was a little bit earlier. So then
More reasonable, yeah.
Yeah, more reasonable. So Saturday, we kicked things off. Yesterday was going to be the big writing day, but we did need to do story time again. This time it was your turn.
Yeah.
So
now with the refined cards,
yeah,
we dove in,
and the smell of bacon in the air.
And the smell of bacon. I kicked off my story time, so I just once again I'm telling Jason the movie is
right.
what I'm doing. So that, and because it's weird when you vocalize your story, you seem to hear it in a different way, and things that don't make sense pop out at you more.
Well, because you can write a word or two on a card and be like, yeah, that makes sense, right? Yeah, that thing totally happens. But when you're right, when you have to speak it out loud,
it's like a different part of your brain or something.
Totally.
It's like you see it in your mind in a different way than when you're writing it, or whatever it is. It's the same when you hear dialogue. When you write it, it seems fine. When you hear it, you're like, that is terrible.
And when you
who wrote that
when
garbage?
You hear other people speak it, you're like, uh-oh. Oops.
And it's weird, but when you do hear that, you're able to like find the right way to say the thing you're trying to say, but it does take some time to get there.
Totally.
So hearing it out loud is sort of a very important part of the process for us. And so after I did sort of story time, we kind of jotted down more stuff on some cards.
But it felt good. It felt like a flowing movie.
Yeah, it did. It did feel. Yeah, it felt good. I was still worried. I was worried because I wanted to refine the cards again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we were running out of time.
So let me touch just quickly before we get into writing.
Clock.
We talked about reading things out loud. And I will say that a proofreading rule of thumb is
with anything.
Script, essay, email even, if you really wanted to.
Text.
Love you. Read it out loud. But read it out loud. Read your actual words and don't just skim. Because when you read the words out loud, you will find grammatical problems. And you're like, whoops. You'll find it, you put an S on the end of a word, or you're missing an S when it should be plural or whatever. And I know it seems dumb, but like, I would proofread stuff for Connor that he was going to send in, and I'm like, man, if you read this out loud, I'm like, try reading it out loud. He'd be like, oops. You have to do it. You have to do it, because otherwise, when you give something to someone to read, hey, I'm trying to raise money for this, or hey, I'm trying to get you excited to be in it, or whatever. If they read it and there's weird little grammar problems, they'll find them and you won't.
Yeah.
It's yucky.
And
it feels yucky.
Yes, totally. And
so
you need to not have spelling errors
totally
in your script by the end. Right now we only have spelling errors.
Yeah, I feel like the road might be getting louder. I'm not sure on the audio.
Yeah,
like this road seems louder. Maybe it's the speed. I'm not sure. but hopefully you guys can still hear us. I will try to raise the volume.
Yeah.
It could be tough. But
Yeah.
anyways.
Sorry, guys. But this is what it is. What it is, what it is. Because the truth is that, do you know what? We're not always in the studio. We are out doing things, okay? And for us to bring you along means that sometimes you're going to be a GoPro. Okay? So back off.
Get off our... Wow. You're really being
That was harsh,
being aggressive
That
with
was
our
harsh.
audience. Yeah, man. Fucking relax.
Just chill. So then, we started at midday. We turned to each other. We were like, we have to start writing now. Because we knew that we needed to leave at 11 today. And we had not written a word.
We had not typed a word.
We had not typed a word. W-H-O-R-D. Word.
I was listening to, do you know how to pronounce the guy that wrote Fight Club? Chuck
Kaputnik?
Chipnik? Anyways, I was listening to a podcast with him and Joe Rogan. It was pretty great.
Yeah.
But he was saying, because Joe Rogan was just asking him about his process and, you know, if he sits around writing all the time, and he was talking about the fact that he doesn't consider typing to be writing. He was like, this is writing. When I walk around on the streets and I come up with ideas and I sit around and I write cue cards and I make notes in my notebooks and all that kind of stuff, he's like, that's writing.
Yeah.
Because I reserve the boring typing aspect until I'm like locked on an airplane or sitting in an airport waiting or something like that.
Totally.
But he's like, I do as much as I can before I get to the typing phase.
I think his name is Palatnik.
Cool. Anyways, great guy. Really good interview with Joe Rogan.
So, yes, and the thing is, in a lot of the podcasts that I've listened to on screenwriting and creating, people talk about putting off the writing process as long as possible. Like, you almost want to have the whole movie clearly playing in your head so that the typing is really the byproduct of the story.
Right.
You're not coming up with the story as you write. And I know a lot of people are like, but that's the fun part. But the thing is, if you do that, you're likely to make it good. You're going to have to write it another 4 times, and you think you're going to be doing story discovery the next 4 times you have to write it.
Right.
But let's say I'm going to make it more realistic. I'm going to say you're going to write it another 7 times to make it good. But if you do enough of the work beforehand in your brain muscle, you fix all the problems in your brain muscle. You don't have to run a whole draft of typing.
Right.
In order to fix it, because you fixed most of the problems. So now you're doing half as many drafts.
Yeah.
To make something that is good, that is solid, that is well-rounded. It doesn't have scraggly little bits of string dangling everywhere.
I think in our case, we probably could have continued carding,
Totally.
but we also kind of made a commitment to trying to come away with something.
A finished thing.
Yeah. So we knew it was time that we had to kick off the writing. So how did you feel about the way we actually wrote everything?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
It was fun because we split the scenes up and we wrote the movie chronologically, but I would take one scene and not even necessarily one scene, because sometimes there was a couple scenes stuck together and the sequences really needed to be one person.
Right.
And so I would take one scene or one sequence, Jay would take the next one, and then we would kind of hopscotch. We did not, a lot of people that write together send scenes back and forth, and we did not do that.
Explain what you mean.
So just like I would write a scene,
right.
I would send it to you, you would go through and make sure that it's got everything that's in your brain with regards to that scene in that movie, and then you would send it back to me, and I would make sure that it's like one of us is in charge of like making sure that the whole script has continuity.
Right.
It looks like it was written by a single unit,
right,
as opposed to 2 different guys.
Right.
And so, yeah, and we didn't get to that stage, but we hopscotched all the way and we did not stop. And of course, you're taking breaks. You write 4 pages.
You're like,
and you're like, let me just stand up and walk around a little bit, grab a coffee, grab a beer,
yeah.
Get a breath of fresh air. But like, we just hopscotched until 2 a.m.
Now
2:30.
I'll talk quickly about.
Like, we literally did not leave the house, the cottage.
No,
We just rode, break.
Saturday
Rode,
we didn't
break.
leave anywhere.
Rode, the break.
And we did. Adrian used Final Draft on his MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
I used an app called Amazon Story Writer because I have a Chromebook, so I've been looking for an app or something where I can do my work offline when I'm not connected to Wi-Fi. Because the thing about a Chromebook is the majority of everything that you have to do is when you're connected to the internet. And I didn't want to just write it in Google Docs, so I did find Amazon Story Writer. You can get it as an app for the Chromebook. And so what I was able to do was I was kind of the curator in this particular run. So he would write in Final Draft, he would save his file to our shared Google Drive, I would import his new scenes, and then plunk them into the appropriate spots in the script that I was writing. And the flow seemed to work pretty well, right? And I would keep us aware of like how many pages we were at, and et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the night, Amazon Story Writer does say that you can export back to Final Draft, and what we learned this morning is there's some weird formatting problems. So I am going to contact Amazon and let them know.
Naughty.
I'm sure they won't do anything, but the thing is, if you say that you can export as a Final Draft, then when a person imports it into Final Draft, the formatting can't be fucked up.
It can't have little bugs.
Right. So, anyways, I'm gonna talk about that.
So, I think that we actually have enough story. So, we were worried at one stage, as we were writing, we're like, well, we're going to be super short.
Right.
Because as we're going and we're writing the scenes, we're like, man, we are halfway through the movie and we're only at 35 pages. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, or we were halfway through the movie and we were only at 25 pages. So we were worried that we'd come in even under 60 pages.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, but in the way that we were writing really fast, a lot of the scenes are very condensed, and we did end up at 65 pages.
60.
We did end up at 60 pages. So, with that, with some fleshing, because there were things that we missed, and we're like, oh, we really need to have this scene in there.
Right.
So there are some scenes that need to be placed in there, but I think we could probably get the script to like 80 pages, and I think that's a good length.
Yeah,
I think it's good. If we get it up to between 75 and 80 pages, I'll be happy.
Well, the other thing too is that we do.
I think it might even be more than that. Actually,
we do write differently.
Totally.
So another thing that kind of, and I did kind of know this, but I'm just not that great at it right now. But Adrian showed me kind of how he will break up a little bit of a larger paragraph into specific lines, because you're trying to make it so that one page equals a minute of screen time is generally the general rule. So instead of having like a block like this that in theory would take up a minute or whatever, if the pieces take a little bit longer, you're trying to make it flow properly.
And one paragraph, I mean, it's just tough. Like, I hate paragraphs. When I see a big fat paragraph, I'm like, ugh.
Right.
So like, I want you to understand what I want you to see in this moment.
Right.
So, boom, she's walking in the woods. Now, when you do like a compound sentence where you got a whole bunch of different pieces, these are different. Like, these might be different shots. You know what I mean? And if it's a different shot, and if it's supposed to be a slow scene, well, then you make this piece of information a new line.
Right.
Because, and also that allows people to fly through the script when they're reading it. It just makes it the whole experience better. When you fly through when you're reading a script and you just sort of float through the script in the same speed that you would float through a movie,
totally.
Now you're winning.
Oh yeah, I did. By the way, there was a moment. Was it Saturday morning that I read the first 40 pages of It Follows?
Yeah, it was the first morning.
The first morning? Okay.
Or
was it
no,
before
was before we started writing.
Yeah. So that was another thing too. We wanted to just get a sense of how a good, solid script flowed a little bit.
Yeah.
Just read somebody else's work. So that was another piece of the puzzle that we jumped into. I will say, we took a look at the script for A Quiet Place, and it was cool.
Interesting, hey?
Yeah, it was very different from the way if you go online and you start reading a bunch of different scripts, and I do think that someday on our website we're going to put links to scripts that we find, because there's tons of scripts that you can read out there. There's so many resources, and it'd be cool if we could, link to or share other people's resources and things like that.
Yeah.
And you've read tons of scripts. I've read many scripts. But the Quiet Place script, or A Quiet Place, was really different than I'm used to. It had pictures, had a page with just one word on it, or a couple words.
Yeah.
It was very strange and
Drama.
interesting.
Yeah. So like they just did it seemed like they did whatever they wanted to make you see the movie in your mind.
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Usually people reserve that right for directors, writer-directors, who are going to be making their own movie, and they generally say everybody else needs to follow the structure.
Right.
But these guys didn't, and they made you see the movie in your mind.
Yeah.
And it worked. A Quiet Place is amazing.
I would really try to hunt that one down. Man, there's some crazy people on this road today.
A bit of weaving.
Yeah, a little bit of weaving. Yeah, there was a moment on Thursday night where we had 2 weaving transport trucks, and I'm not going to tell you how fast I had to get the car up to get past these 2 trucks, but
Jason hates weaving trucks. If the truck's moving along the road like this, he's like, oh my word, that's like one of his fears. So when there were 2 of them, and they were kind of like, you're like, I don't know, these guys are either exhausted, or they're totally on their phones.
Right.
Something is happening right now, and there's 2 of them, and the one overtook the other, and kind of blah blah blah. And Jason was like, I'm getting past these trucks as quickly as my car will get me.
Yeah, you had to. I like to be a safe driver. I do. And
getting squashed by a truck is not part of the master plan.
Negative. I like to give people space to do stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if the trucks are going slow and they're weaving, you got to get past them.
Yeah.
Anyways, I would like to find that script and put it in the show notes somehow, so that if you're interested, jump over to the show notes at firstframesfirst.com, episode 57. I will put a link in there, because it's cool. It's just a cool one to read.
It's really interesting, and I've heard other people talk about it because it breaks so many rules of writing scripts.
And you know what I will do too? I will post the link to It Follows as well, so you can take a look at, because It Follows is a really cool script also. And so you can just take a look at the difference. One really follows the format, but is still excellent, and then one kind of breaks the normal conventions.
Yeah.
So.
And, well, A Quiet Place is interesting because so much of the movie is silent that I suppose you have more room in the script. You're like, I mean, the script is only 67 pages long.
Yeah.
And because there's no talking, the script could, like, it's sort of like Where's Wally? Like, the thing that takes up a lot of room in scripts is dialogue. So when people are not talking, you've just got action.
You got lots of room to put 3 words on an entire page.
Yeah. So you're like, well, our script could be 40 pages of action, or we could break it up with pictures because we don't have dialogue to break it up. So we're building the world. We're building the world in your mind. Because that is the job of the script. What's the job in the script? To allow people to see your movie in their mind.
Yeah. So this morning we had to pack everything up, and we did a little bit of packing last night, and we watched 1922, Stephen King's adaptation with Thomas Jane.
What did you think?
So it was okay. It was I liked it, but I actually listened to 1922 in audiobook format on a long car ride with Connor years ago, and a couple of years ago. couple really great stories in there, and this one was good. And I think that they did a pretty good job of adapting it. To be honest, I think it was done pretty well. You didn't like the corruption of the sun. You did not appreciate that.
No.
I think in the book.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm watching this guy, and everyone in the movie I now
Hate.
dislike.
Yeah.
There's no one I'm like rooting for. I'm
Yeah.
just like I hate this guy.
Right.
Like what he did to his son, in my mind, is unforgivable.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah. And now he's gonna die. And so
It's interesting, like, Stephen King, the more stories you write, or you read of his, he's got tons and tons of short stories, and they're not always, many of them do not have heroes, right?
Yeah.
Many of them do not have happy endings.
you're following the bad guy.
Right? Or something bad's gonna happen, and that's just the way it is. And, I mean...
Yeah. That's fine. So what I think is that, yeah, okay, and that is what that movie is. For me, and this happened when I went to the theater and watched The Grapes of Wrath. It's like this slow downward spiral where nothing good happens ever. You start in this place and you just slide down this sludgy hill into like depravity and ultimately death.
Yeah.
And
even the end is not satisfying.
Yeah.
You're just like,
and
okay.
for me, I love watching movies that
now I don't know
that are fun and that I love and make me feel good.
Yeah. I don't know what our audience can see in this GoPro. However, we're about to pass just a wonderful car here. You might not be able to see because the shininess of it all might. There we go.
It's like a purple chrome,
That was awesome.
covered Lexus.
Yep. So, what's next for? We've got a couple hours car ride home. I think that we should get you to just roll through the script and feel the flow. Maybe just start fixing some of my stuff, just popping it into the right places. And by virtue of doing that, we're going to extend the script a little. Just spend some time with it.
Yeah.
But we're probably in the neighborhood of 65 to 75 pages, which is a pretty decent... We have a couple more notes of things that we want to add, so we'll probably find the appropriate moments to get that stuff in there. And
we need to do one single solid continuity run.
Right.
Where we run through the whole script, make it all uniform.
Right.
All a single unit, and then I think we will have something that people can read.
So we shouldn't... So the other thing too is, I think we should try to commit. So this podcast is going to come out on Wednesday. I think we should try to commit to that continuity run, adding the stuff
soon
before the next podcast.
Because the thing is that you gotta, and it's like this with a lot of things. While the ball's rolling, get it to the place you need it to be.
Right.
Because you're like, I'll come back to it, and often, you never fucking come back to it.
The thing is, truth be told,
my language,
we are busy. We have lots of stuff on the go.
Yeah.
So, I know we had our moments of like, we were unsure. There was some tension. I think not between us, but like last night we weren't sure if we were gonna have enough, because there were some moments where we were like,
nervous.
Fuck, man, we're only at 35 pages, and I'm looking back at the table, because what we would do is we'd each take the cards, and as we completed them, we'd number them, we'd set them in a pile or whatever. So kind of as the day went on, the long day, you're looking at the table and the layout of the cards, and you're seeing less and less of the movie left that you have to write. But we were looking at how much we'd already written, and a couple times we were like, I don't know, we might be missing something big. Like a couple times we sat outside and just talked about, like,
do we need another storyline?
Another storyline.
Or does the movie, is the end of the movie not the end, it's the midpoint?
Right. But I think that was that was error. I think we're good. And that is actually great because we did tell one complete story.
Yeah.
So I just want to say I'm happy and I'm proud. Like, two days. The one thing I did mention to you was, and I'll try to wrap this up quickly, but I always thought it was bullshit when you would hear people say things like, Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky in 3 days, or this guy, you hear this writer guy say, oh yeah, I write a script every couple weeks, or yeah, no, once I get the idea, it only takes me like a week to knock out that script. And I've always felt like that's crazy, because the way I've always been involved with any other script is, like you mentioned before, a half hour, 10 minutes a day, a half hour a day, a couple times a week, or whatever, and it takes you 3 or 4 months or 5 months to get something solid, right? Whereas, I suppose, if there's a producer out there or a production company and they're like, when can we expect this new version of the script? I expect it in 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. They're thinking you're going to lock yourself in a room and
this is going to be your full-time job.
Your full-time job. You don't have kids. Yeah. You're going to crush through this thing, and you should be able to do it in a week or two, because that's what I've seen 1,000 other people do it, or whatever, right? And so I've always thought that was bullshit, but I did really like what we did. I'm proud.
Yeah, I am happy we did it.
I wish we had brought a giant printer.
Yeah.
If we had brought a giant printer to the cabin, we would actually have a printed out version today, I think.
No.
For fun. I would have.
Okay,
I would have just wasted the ink and paper. I would have been like, I would have printed it out last night.
Just for a phony. Yeah, I wanted to get further. I wanted to be at the end of the continuity run.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to be driving back with something that someone could read.
Yes.
And so, for me, we didn't quite get there, get where we needed to go. But we did really well.
I think you should stop being a Debbie Downer.
We made a lot of headway. And it was hard. It was exhausting.
Yeah.
This was, I'm gonna sleep after going and burning my brain muscle.
I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to get up at 5 a.m.
No, I go to bed early, but yes, I will have to get up at 5:30. But
not this cat.
Not this guy. But it was a lot of brain work. You are thinking the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the right line for the scene? Is this the right line for this character? Is this the right scene?
We need to hurry up.
Is this the right thing? Is this the right arc for the scene? Where should the scene end? And you are building this puzzle, which is exactly what a story is, constantly. So your brain it cooks. And it's awesome.
Anyways,
I
guys,
can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, this was exciting. It was a very cool process, all in all.
In 6 months or something.
Yeah. Yeah. In the wintertime.
Oh.
Something to think about. I will say, though, we didn't get the opportunity to have a fire, which was near and dear to my heart. Because it was cold and rainy and it snowed. Anyways.
Okay. So, guys, thanks so much for watching / listening. And we'll chat to you again soon.
Dream big.
Work hard.
Christ, did we ever.
Thanks for watching.
First frames first.
Yes. First frames first. Thank you, Jason.
Welcome.
If you enjoyed, head over to our website, www.thefableforest.com. Check out our films and sign up for our newsletter where we will send you exclusive content.
Hit us up on our socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, always at The Fable Forest. And share our show with your friends. It'll really help us out a lot.
Dream big.
Work hard.